Good morning, class, teachers, and students of the receiving schools.
Good morning, Mrs. Watangas.
How are you all this morning?
We are very well, thank you. And how are you this morning?
Very well, just like you all, thank you. You may be seated. Okay, making a living, grade 7s. Resources, we still have the same resources for this lesson. And our lesson topic, class together, is project completion. Now I'd like someone to tell me what project completion is. What do you think we will be actually doing? That topic, project completion, what does it mean to you? Tulanga?
The project completion means the completion of the pillowcase.
Very good. Finishing of the pillowcase. What you have done so far in the lesson, this lesson, you should try to get it finished. Thank you. Now we go straight to our activity, and before we go to that activity, let's have a look at the 3 basic stitches that we looked at and that we used on sewing the pillowcase. The first stitch is the together. The second and now what did we use the slip hemming for? What did we use the slip hemming for? What did we use the slip hemming for in our pillowcase? Yes, Quarry.
To sew the flap.
To sew the flap. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Carol.
To fold the folded part of the fabric.
Okay, to sew the folded part of the fabric. And like Quarry said and Carol, slip hemming was used to hem the opening to the pillowcase. Okay, now back stitch. What was back stitch used for? What was back stitch? What was it used for? Brendan?
To sew the raw edges.
To sew the sides of the raw edges of the pillowcase. Now let's have Linda to tell us what a blanket stitch was used for. Linda, what was the blanket stitch used for?
To neaten the raw edges.
To neaten the raw edges. Thank you. Now, we will once again look at all those stitches, all the basic stitches, and we try to go through once again the steps to those 3 basic stitches that we have used in sewing the pillowcase. Now the first one is slip hemming, back stitch, then blanket stitch. Now the steps are not in order, and I will have some of you to come and help me to put them in order. Now for slip hemming, we have Rico for the first step, Nigel, Dima, Edward, Anna, and Raymond. Okay, come in that order. Rico with the first step. Thank you. Nigel, second, to slip hemming. Orvin, Gima, I see, sorry. Gima. Gima, and who is the next? Edward. Okay, so Edward has completed it. So that is the correct steps in sewing slip hemming. Now we have the back stitch. We will rearrange the steps once again, just like we have seen our friends doing. I will have from group 6, we have Tassie. Group 5, was it Linda that I mentioned the name earlier? Okay, and Raymond for the third. Okay, let's have the first from group 6. You only bring yours, and then when you get one, you put that one back where you have got the other card. Thank you. Okay, Anna, I see. Okay, Anna. Raymond. After Raymond, we have Violet to finish it off. Okay, thank you. So this is the correct order, the steps to back stitching. Now let's have the last stitch, which is blanket stitch, and I'll have Jennifer for the first. Jennifer. Hercules second. Okay, Hercules, the second step. Elisa, third. Nanadai, get ready for the fourth step. And we have Aloysia to finish it off. Now, thank you. Now, after going through all these 3 basic stitches, by this time now, we all should know how to slip hem, back stitch, and blanket stitch. These 3 stitches, can they be only done on pillowcases or other garments as well? Other garments, thank you. Now let's have a look at what our activity is for this lesson. I'd like the class to read it for us together.
Continue from where you have stopped in the last
are to continue, meaning you keep on sewing from where you stop. Now, if you have stopped at backstitching, then you continue from backstitching until you come to finishing with the blanket stitch. If you are on blanket stitch and you haven't completed, then you are to work on blanket stitch and complete. Now, for those of us who have finished, our pillowcases should still remain inside out, and we could have a discussion. Okay, I'd like us to read together what we could do while we are sitting around for our friends to complete their pillowcases. I'd like the class to read it together.
Every discussion on the process of sewing the pillowcase.
Okay, that is for those who have finished. You could help and assist your friends who haven't finished, or in your groups, those who have finished, if there are 3 of you or 2 of you, pre-discussion meaning it's not time for that lesson yet, but you are talking about it before that actual lesson. So you are to discuss about the process that we have taken in sewing the pillowcase. That's from the beginning to the completion of the pillowcase. Okay, if I can have you all to have your pillowcases out, the completed and the ones that are not completed as well. Our friends who did not complete while they are sewing, for those of us who have completed, let's have a look at the second part of the activity. Can I have you all to read it together?
Turn the flap of the completed pillowcase over.
Okay, turn the flap of the completed pillowcase over. You have seen Quarry demonstrate that in the previous lesson. You have seen a Quarry demonstrate turning the flap over the right way in the previous lesson. I'd like you to do that. Those of us who haven't finished, a reminder, we should be still sewing wherever we have stopped in the previous lesson. You leave yours. I'll use yours too. Gima, you come up with his, leave yours there, and you come up with his pillowcase. Okay, can you, both of you come up? Now, while the others are doing that, if I can have Quarry and Gima with Quarry's pillowcase. Okay, Gima, you're going to help to hold. Come this way. You come this way. Okay, you come that way. Okay. Now, To the receiving schools, students and teachers, this is how the completed pillowcase will look. We have the flap. That is the flap of the pillowcase, this one here. Now the flap has been folded, the edge has been folded, and that is the slip hemming done to neaten the edge. Slip hemming to neaten the edge. The sides of the pillowcase, we have two of them. They have been backstitched. After backstitching, to neaten the raw edges, it has been blanket stitch. Blanket stitching has been done to neaten the raw edges. So that is how the three basic stitches have been used. The slip hemming for the opening to the pillowcase, the back stitch for the sides of the pillowcase, this and the other side, and the blanket stitch to neaten the raw edges. We have this one that comes up all the way over the flap. Also the same on the other side from there up to the folded flap. Now, we will have Gima to turn the flap out the correct way for us. Okay. Only the flap. Yeah, only the flap. Okay, turn it, turn it. Okay, so that is how the flap should look once you have turned the flap the right way. Okay. Now, you keep on standing. We go to the last step, which says, class, I'd like you to read it for us together.
Then the completed pillowcase outside out.
Now, outside out meaning the outside of a pillowcase is inside. So we are going to turn it out, and we will see Quarry doing that for us. And I'd like the class also, you get yours turned the right way. You can help him. Yeah. And get it straight. Both of you do it. Neaten the edges, the bottom part there, see, it's not. Okay, I'd like the class have your all the sides, make them flatten them. So if you can all hold your completed pillowcases up so I can see who has finished and who hasn't. So that's, whose is that? Edwards, okay. So we have Alan, not yet. Ovin is still working on his. Group Gail, Helen, and Linda, Messi. Okay. Now, very good, thank you. I'd like you all to give yourselves a clap or 3 for getting your pillowcases completed. Together, again. Okay, thank you. Now, keep on holding. So that is how, to the receiving schools, That is how your pillowcase, your completed pillowcase will look. Once you have turned this the right way, you have the flap, which is at the back, okay, and the front part. So once your pillow is put in, you get this one put over the pillow, okay. Now, thanks very much, Kwari and Gima. Now, if I can have you, those who have completed, just to fold your pillowcases and put them away. Now, this is to the teachers especially. So I would excuse the students, and this message to the receiving school teachers. We have the suggested marking criteria for the completed pillowcase. Now, this is the actual pillowcase that has been completed, and this marking criteria is only suggested one. You can make up your own. Besides the others that you have assessed the students on, like the drafting of the patterns, individual students' participation and cooperation. Besides that, I have once again the suggested marking criteria that teachers you can use to assess your students on the completed pillowcases. We have the task assessed and also the marks assigned. Task assessed, we have blanket stitching, back stitching, slip hemming, correct folding of the flap, and the neatness of all the stitches done. Now, you may be wondering why we have 4 marks for each of those stitches. Now, this is because there are 2 sides that have been blanket stitched, 2 sides also the pillowcase that have been back stitched, and also the slip hemming, there are also 2 sides that have been slip hemmed. And that is how we have 4 marks for each of those basic stitches. To the class, anybody who can try to guess what you think our next lesson will be on? After now we have completed our pillowcase, what do you think is going to be the next lesson on? I've given you a clue earlier in the lesson. Okay, Tulanga wants to try.
Discussion on the process on the process of sewing the pillowcase.
Very good, okay. Reflecting on the process of sewing the pillowcase. Reflecting meaning looking back, okay? Looking back to where we have started in sewing the pillowcase to the completion of it. So in reflecting, when we are reflecting on the process, we will be basically looking at, I'd like the class to read it for us. What will we be basically looking at?
The 3 basic stitches used, marking the pattern, cutting the pillowcase, and the actual sewing of the pillowcase.
Okay, so those are the areas that we will be reflecting on in the next lesson. Anybody who can guess for us a key phrase? for this lesson? Key phrase, Messi?
Pillowcase completion.
Okay, pillowcase completion or completing the pillowcase. Let's see. Thank you, Messi. So our key phrase for this lesson is pillowcase completion. And with that, I'd like to thank you, class, for your cooperation, and also to our students in the receiving schools and teachers in going through the whole process in sewing the pillowcase to the completion of it. And good morning to you, class, the students of the receiving schools and teachers.